There are far worse things facing man than death.
What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG on the YouTube.com. You know by now, we like magic and stuff. And today, I've got another budget deck for you right here. This is a $50 deck that you can play in Standard, and it kind of feels like playing a Major League competitive deck. There's a lot of really, really good cards in this thing. Today, I'm going to show you Death and Taxes. His tail is like right here in my face. Normally, you see Death and Taxes in Modern and Legacy, but I think we've actually got a pretty decent case in Standard for it right now. We might not have anything like Thalia that makes their plays more expensive, but we do have ways of taxing and punishing plays that they try to make. So let me show you what I've got here. Creatures first in this one. Let's start with 3 copies of Thraben Inspector to kick it off. I just like the way that Thraben Inspector plays against a lot of stuff in the format right now. You know, against aggro, it's a body on the ground early that can block, and against control, it's a body on the ground early that can swing in. Not bad. And it also provides that clue, which is good card advantage against decks like Control and Delirium that you're trying to sort of win a card advantage race with, too. So, just so much good play. It's good early game, and it's also good, like, turn 8, body on the ground, card drawn, and you still got mana open. Not bad. Let's talk about some creatures that actually feel like they tax our opponent. You know, Thraben Inspector, we get added value off of. It's a good investment. Financial puns. But let's talk about some things that actually tax them, starting with what I think is the best one, and that is Kambla, Consul of Allocation. I'm going to play 3 whole copies of Kambla in the deck because it's not only is it on theme, it's like a really, really freaking good card. Like, not only does it basically punishes, you know, every deck in the format. It punishes Delirium decks, it punishes decks that want to play Smuggler's Copter, it punishes aggro decks that play Declaration or Harness Lightning, it punishes control decks that play nothing but non-creatures, it punishes decks that want to play, you know, Planeswalkers like Control and Delirium. Just like, this card is so good, and it's got this huge magnet, you know, on its back. It's got a bullseye on its back, basically, you know, just a huge magnet for removal. But that's okay, because they'll have to burn 1 removal spell on this if they want to do anything else without a 4-point life swing every time they play a non-creature spell. That's just really good, and like there are times when if they can't take care of this properly, but they still want to play the game against you, then they have to like take 6 and you gain 6 over the course of the game. And we're playing 3 of them, so if they kill 1, there's a pretty good chance that we'll draw into another one. Just this card is actually really good, and the body's not great at just 2/3, but this isn't going to do much attacking. It's going to sit back and gain us a little incremental advantage and tax our opponent for playing spells. Another good card as far as taxation goes is Thalia, Heretic Cathar, which I'm also going to play a 3 of. Now, Thalia is really good against all the vehicles decks in the formats, like, kind of specifically right now, because she doesn't allow creatures that just came in on the battlefield to crew vehicles, which they can do, by the way, newer players. That's not a summoning sickness thing. Creatures can crew vehicles the turn they come into play. But not if there's a Thalia out on your side of the board. They can't. That's pretty cool right there. And it's also pretty good defense against haste creatures like Fleetwheel Cruiser, for example. But don't underestimate the ability to have lands your opponents control come into play tapped. It is really annoying if you play this early on in the game. You know, play this turn 3. And then for the next couple of turns, like, they're going to basically be a turn behind on mana. And that can give you a huge advantage in the early game. And, you know, solid body for 3 mana too. Just, Thalia is not only on theme, but just like Kambla, she's one of the better creatures in the format, by my estimation at least. Good card. Speaking of one of the better creatures in the format by my estimation, even if not necessarily some other people's, I'm going to play 3 copies of Gonti, Lord of Luxury in the deck. This card is dope. This card is bonkers. This card is stupid. This card is crazy. This card is dumb. And every other stupid internet adjective that people use. Like, this card is bae. It's like, I'm serious. I've been wanting to play with this card, like, since it first got spoiled. And this is my first chance to play with it, and it is so freaking outrageously, righteously, ridiculously gnarly. Like, this card, I can sit here and gush about Gonti all night, because a lot of people have been trying to tell everybody, like, hey, take a look at Gonti, this card's good. Yeah, card's stupid good. Card is really freaking good. A couple of things about Gonti that are really cool. When you exile a card face down, it doesn't matter if Gonti leaves the battlefield for any reason at all. The card is still exiled face down, and you can still pay whatever mana you want to cast the card for as long as the game goes on. That is really, really good. The only way that you will not get card advantage off of this is if you hit 4 lands, but then you're still getting card advantage. You just can't cast the land, but you still took a land out of their deck. That could be good for them in some cases. But still, you're never going to hit 4 lands in a row with a Gonti. You're always going to hit something you can exile and then play later. And the cool thing about Gonti is the better your opponent's deck is, the better Gonti is. Seriously, I could devote a 10-minute chunk of this video, but all I'm going to say is that Gonti is very impressive despite the 4-mana 2/3 body. That's not very good, not at all. But the thing that it does is so amazing. It's card advantage. It allows you to steal one of your opponent's cards and play it for whatever mana you want. And in this format, I don't know if you guys know, there's a lot of really, really good cards. So like, even if you just hit a Harness Lightning, that's removal. You got 2/3 body and removal. Gonti is very good. Just try him out. Seriously, I know 4 mana is a lot, but just, God, it's good. Anyway, we're going to play 1 copy of Linvala the Preserver in this deck as well. Very good specifically against aggro if you can get to a Linvala. You drop a Linvala against aggro, and sometimes, like, just that will completely swing the game in your favor. Hey, got a 5/5 flyer out, got a 3/3 flyer too. Hey, just gained 5 life. Like, I'm just totally right back on track, and I got way bigger creatures than you now. So, Linvala is so unbelievably good against those decks. And even if you're not playing against aggro, 5/5 flyer. Nothing wrong with that at all. Bigger than a lot of the other creatures in the format. So, and she's on theme. You know, she feels like a tax. Like, she feels like, basically, like, you have more stuff than me. Let's redistribute the wealth a little bit. Tax jokes. Anyway, we're going to finish off the creatures with another 5/5 flyer. We got a lot of those. We're going to play 2 copies of Demon of Dark Schemes in the deck. Demon of Dark Schemes is another card, just like Gonti, that people have been wanting me to play with, you know, and people ask me a lot. How do you feel about Demon of Dark Schemes? Turns out I feel pretty freaking good about Demon of Dark Schemes, as a matter of fact. This is also very good if you can get to it against the aggro decks. It's going to take out their Exemplars, going to take out their Thraben Inspectors, going to take out their Veteran Motorists, you know. Just can really hit for a lot against those decks and give you a bunch of energy all at one time. And you don't really care that much if it hits like your own Thraben Inspector, even your own Thalia, because by that point Thalia is a little less important by the time you hit 6 mana. So you don't care, you just get 2 energy off of it, and then you can get a huge fat creature out of their graveyard, which sort of almost feels Taxian in a way. I just, you know, I really wanted to play the card, honestly, in a deck, and this felt like a good slot for it because we're trying to stay under budget, and the card's only like $1.50 right now, and it's good as far as like long game plan goes. You know, you get a 5/5 flyer, you get to clear the board of small creatures, and you get to get bigger creatures out of either graveyard. So Demon is yes, yes. Since we're playing Demon of Dark Schemes, we got to play a couple other cards that generate energy, and I think Black has some very practical ones. So let's look at our small scale energy suite right here. We're going to play 4 copies of Die Young and 3 copies of Live Fast. Die Young, just, you know, solid removal on turn 2, and even sometimes on turn 4 or 5. You know, take out a smaller guy, Toolcraft Exemplar, whatever. You can take out a 1 toughness guy like Veteran Motorist and still leave an energy behind. That's cool. If you have a Demon of Dark Schemes out, then Die Young basically, you know, it generates an energy if you kill a creature, so that's kind of cool too. And then Live Fast is just card advantage, which a deck like this wants. We play sort of midway between a control deck and an aggro deck. This is very much a mid-range deck. The template is mid-range, 15 creatures and a bunch of removal, and some card advantage. Very much a mid-range deck. And those decks want to have some sort of card advantage, a refill in the mid-game. And in this case, our refill also generates energy for demons. So I think this is a good energy suite right here. Not only are they, you know, capable of producing energy, but they're also just solid cards in and of themselves. I'm just going to play a couple of Planeswalkers in the deck. 2 copies of Ob Nixilis here, and we can actually stay pretty well under budget. People are like forgetting this card exists, but he's still playable in Standard. It's a really good card. You should play him. In this deck, he's pretty darn good. You know, he's also a way for us to get card advantage, something that we need. But I like the way he curves with Demon of Dark Schemes. Turn 5 Ob Nix into turn 6 Demon of Dark Schemes is nice, because if you kill a creature with Ob Nixilis' second ability, you can get it out of the graveyard with Demon of Dark Schemes. That's cool. You have a 5/5 flyer, an Ob Nixilis, and a big creature that you've killed. That's pretty awesome. And if you can ultimate Ob Nixilis, you get some form of inevitability, which this deck really, really, really wants, and is also on theme. You know, there's nothing inevitable like death and taxes, right? And the rest of the deck is all basically removal. Let me take you through some of that real quick. We're going to play 2 copies of Transgress the Mind, 4 copies of Grasp of Darkness, and 1 copy of Blessed Alliance here in the 2 mana removal slot. Transgress the Mind is basically removal, in my mind at least, and it's not necessarily amazing against some of the aggro decks in the format, but it's good against everything else. You know, it can take out a lot of the things that Green-Black Delirium plays, starting with Liliana, an important card card for that deck. And a lot of the things that Control plays as well as Torrential Gearhulk. Also, obviously takes out Emrakul in the very early game from their hands. So, Transgress the Mind, Planeswalkers, removal, whatever. Just Transgress is so good, like the best proactive removal in the format. If you want to look at it that way. Grasp of Darkness, instant speed, can take out Smuggler's Copter. I'll probably say that 100 more times this season. But for that one reason alone, and the fact that it's relatively budget, I'll play all 4 copies. Blessed Alliance is a little bit more interesting, though. Blessed Alliance has a lot of play, and I could see actually playing 2 copies of this card, but it's most effective at 4 to 6 mana, and I don't want to have to play it for 4 to 6 all the time. Although just for 2 mana, you can sometimes kill a Smuggler's Copter that's attacking in alone. That's not bad at all. But sometimes the best thing to do is wait till you have 4, gain 4, bust an attacking creature. So Blessed Alliance just has a lot of play, and the untapping 2 creatures can also be surprisingly effective too. Don't forget that mode is on the card. Blessed Alliance, just a very solid piece that I think has a lot of play and could maybe be a 2 of, because I love modal cards. Choice is always good. And to finish off the main deck, the rest of the removal is just 2 copies of Anguished Unmaking and 1 copy of Stasis Snare here. Anguished Unmaking can take out Planeswalkers at instant speed. That's cool. We need to do that a little bit more right now in the format than we did at the start of it. And it's just unconditional. Not only does it take out Planeswalkers, but also artifacts, whether it's Smuggler's Copter or Aetherworks Marvel. Good to have a main deck card that's capable of doing that. And in a pinch, it can kill a big creature too, forever. Exile is nice. And then the copy of Stasis Snare is mostly in there as a main deck way to deal with an Emrakul that they're casting. They'll stick at the cast trigger, but this gets around the protection from instants because it has flash. So Stasis Snare I like as an option against Emmy, but also just solid against anything else. Even if you're not playing against Emrakul, still instant speed removal. That's good against Smuggler's Copter and everything else. So Stasis Snare just solid enough to play every day and has the added effect of being good against Emrakul. Here's the lands right here. There's 26 of them because we're trying to get to a few different 6-drops in this deck. And anytime I've got more than one 6-drop, I want to play 26 lands. Especially in a deck like this that really, really, really wants to get its drops badly. Things go very wrong if we don't get our land drops. So 26 I think is the right number. Aside from that, I do feel like you really, really should play these Shambling Vents here. You may have noticed that we're playing Anguished Unmaking and Live Fast in the deck. That's a couple of different effects that can deal a good bit of damage to us. So Shambling Vent is important, but we've also got a lot of other cards that can cover our life total in the deck, if you also didn't notice that. We're playing, let me just go through here. Blessed Alliance can gain us life. Linvala can gain us life. Kambla can gain us life as well. So, there's definitely ways that we try to balance out the life loss in the deck, and Shambling Vent's one of those ways. You should definitely pick it up. Here's the sideboard for you. I'd like to put Authority of the Consuls in the main deck, but I'll leave that call up to you. It all depends on how much aggro you see in your local LGS. If you go to F&M and it's nothing but aggro, I think Authority belongs in the main deck, especially if you're facing off against a lot of Smuggler's Copters and like 1-drops. Authority's very good against those decks. And is straight up taxation, so is on theme as well. Fragmentize, just an obviously important piece in the format right now. Deadweight, great against all those aggro decks so we don't get off to a bad start. Blessed Alliance, just another copy of those. I was already saying I think 2 copies could go in the main. And then 2 more Stasis Snare against Emmy, and just as solid removal against vehicles. Fumigate also good against aggro because it's yet another thing that stabilizes our life total after not only have they taken a couple of shots at us, but we've cast a couple of spells that maybe hurt us. Live Fast against Control, we want to add another way of getting card advantage. That's important. And then just the one of Thalia's Lancers, because there are 10 legendary creatures in the main deck here. And against some decks that play a lot of removal, I think Thalia's Lancers is a good way to get a 4/4 body on the battlefield and go tutor up a legend. That's nice. Before I move on to the power rankings, I just want to talk about a couple cards you can play in the deck if you have the cards or the money. You already have these in your binder. Feel absolutely free to play them in this deck, starting with Kalitas. Kalitas is awesome. Kalitas is just awesome. If you kill their guys, or if they just die in combat, whatever, they not only get exiled, but you get the zombie. Just like, that is taxation, and Kalitas is obviously one of the better creatures in the format for like the whole last year. So I think Kalitas definitely has a place in this deck. As does Avacyn. Avacyn also feels like taxation and is like one of the top 3 creatures in the whole format. So if you got her, play her. The reason I say she feels like taxation is like, oh, you want to kill my guys? Have this. Selfless Spirit could go along with Avacyn, but Selfless Spirit has gone from like $2 to $9.50 on TCG Player, and I tried to tell you that card was awesome. I've loved Selfless Spirit from the moment I saw it. But right now it's getting pricey to play. You could also play Gideon in this deck. Speaking of getting pricey to play, but Gideon is just probably the most played Planeswalker in the format next to Liliana right now. Sorin is about $6.50 or $7 and was just barely out of our budget, but is a very, very solid Planeswalker. If you want to add yet another 6-drop, that's fine. Concealed Courtyard could definitely go on the land base if you had the extra, whatever, $15 to shell out to get the playset. And then Eldrazi Displacer is something that's not necessarily out of budget, but it would knock the land base out of budget, definitely. But it's worth trying. You know, we're playing Gonti in the deck, we're playing Linvala in the deck, so there's a couple of things that the card works very, very well with. You could try Displacer. But here's your power rankings right here. A final score of 62, which is not bad. That's getting right into the competitive end of things, you know. But as you can see, we don't really do horribly in any one category here. We're not super speedy. We don't have a whole lot of offense or anything. But we hold down the fort really well. We've got a lot of a varied suite of removal. You know, all of our creatures do cool stuff. They'll keep us in the game, like Kambla will help keep us in the game for a while. Thalia will slow them down. Gonti will give us card advantage and a body on the ground and a way sometimes to use their own removal against them, or put a body on our side of the battlefield. Linvala, you know, Demon of Dark Schemes, just like so many resilient and versatile pieces in this deck. Don't discount how resilient the deck is. We've got a fair amount of life gain in the deck. We've got Linvala, just insanely resilient card. Demon of Dark Schemes is very resilient because we can get creatures back with it. Just super awesome. So a lot of play in this deck and can play differently against different things. You know, against control, we'll put threats on the battlefield and try to sort of keep them going, you know, and we can put a Demon of Dark Schemes out. If we resolve that, then we can get any creatures they've removed back, so that's good. And then against aggro, we can play more like a control deck, covering the first few turns, especially after we've sideboarded. We can cover turns 1, 2, and 3 pretty well, and then start turning the corner from there. So we've got a pretty versatile game plan in this deck, and it's only like $50. Totally worth picking up, and you can work your way up to either black-white control, or maybe an Esper control if you wanted. There's a lot of things you could do if you had all these pieces right now. So a good jumping off point. That's all I've got for now. Let me know how you felt about this one down in the comments section. For just $50, I feel like this is a very, very good deal. And if you add the sideboard in, it's like right at $60 on TCG Player. So no matter which way you slice it, you know, you're really not paying that much for a deck that's going to last you a little good while, especially since the announcement of the new rotation schedule. Even things like Transgress the Mind are going to stay for a while because Oath isn't going to rotate as soon as we thought it was going to. So that's pretty cool. You're going to get to play the deck for a good long time. And, you know, it's got a lot of powerful cards in it, and you get to play with fun stuff. You get to play with Kambla, you get to play with Demon of Dark Schemes, you get to play with Gonti. Like, there's a lot of super fun cards in this deck that are better than people are giving them credit for right now. But what are we doing next time? Competitive all the way deck tech next time. But I want your input in the comments section. I'm going to do a 3-color combination next time. I've got 3 different decks in the works, but I want to know, if I was going to do any 3-color combination, what would you want it to be? That's your question. Go forth. That's all I got for now. If you enjoyed the content, hit the thumbs up button. It helps me a lot. You know, it gets the video out to more people, and we get more views, and then we're able to make better content. It's a cycle as long as you hit the thumbs up button. So please do that for me, and also sub if you're new. And I will see you guys next time. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.